Hello, everybody. Welcome on the Lights on Data show.
Welcome, everyone. Our today's guest is already a regular. The first out a practical example of a successful data catalog. After that, and the second one, we talked about how to create a business case for data governance. And today, our episode is going to be about best practices for improving data quality. Welcome, Sharad, and thank you very much for being on the show again.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you so much for inviting me. And thank you, George, for inviting
Well,
me.
we're lucky to have you. As I was mentioning you before the show, you're really a well of wisdom, if you will. So there's always, great knowledge coming from that side of the screen. So we're really looking forward to this episode. Data quality is a big issue for everybody. And please, anybody that is watching, let us know what sort of issues you're facing right now. How maybe have you tackled or started to tackle them? And definitely with Sharad, we're gonna see what sort of strategy we can adapt and adopt to solve this data quality issue that's really lurking over every company.
That's so true. I wanted to say before we actually start going into the interesting topic for today, Sharad is the CEO at OvalEdge, and OvalEdge has been selected among the fastest growing companies in Atlanta, which is amazing. And I was very surprised because Sharad before the show just told us that they moved to a bigger office, and I don't know how many companies can say that during COVID. So congratulations, Sharad, and all your team. That's really amazing. So
Thank
we're
you
very
so much.
glad that
Thank you.
OvalEdge is doing so well.
Definitely.
Yes.
So let's start
Thank
with
you.
really the issue of data quality.
Mm.
It's really the consequences of having bad data quality.
Hey, George,
Is
just
it bad data quality or low data quality?
can
What
you?
is the
I think that we are not live. Are we live?
Are we broadcasting?
we are?
We are, yes.
Okay, maybe there's a lag. Okay.
Oh, okay. So let's continue.
Yeah.
Because if we have a discussion and nobody's watching, then that would be kind of like
Yeah, that would be sad.
then we said, but people can still watch recording. That's all right. That's the advantage of technology. But yeah,
I'm
let's
just
continue the discussion.
I'm just refreshing this to make sure that we are everything is okay here. But
Yeah, we're good.
it says that
Wonderful.
we are live.
Great.
All right. Okay. Yes. Just quickly confirming this to make sure that we are live on both channels here on 25 people on LinkedIn, a couple of people watching on YouTube. So, hey, everybody.
Hey, wonderful.
So back to the first question was, that consequence of, well, not just one, but what are the consequences of having bad data quality?
Or low data quality. I still don't know which one it is correct.
Yeah, I think that again means this is pretty obvious that if you have I think I was taking an example. If you want to make a tomato soup and the tomatoes are rotten, then but the soup will be good, right? So it goes to the anything you want to do with the data. If the quality is not good, you're not going to work, right? So something people can call it garbage in, garbage out, right?
Right.
Now, any digital, whether you are doing digital transformation projects, if you're doing AI, machine learning project, anything related to that, everything is basically now new generation is actually hosted by the data, right? And data is kind of a founding principle for that. If you put them the bad data, the bad results is going to come out, and it's better to not do that project, right? So in my opinion, the data quality is such a foundation for starting any project, whether data driven decision making, whether AI, ML, or digital transformation, or anything big you want to do in the data area. You have to have a high quality data, otherwise you just cannot work. The only challenge may be that how do we define the quality of the data, and that we can discuss later. But until unless you have the high quality data, the outcome is not worthwhile, and then better to not do the project. And projects generally spends millions of dollars you are spending on those, and those are not only just the you're doing it for reducing the cost of operation. Most of the time they are revenue generating projects like AI, ML. Every company's data strategy nowadays involves the business strategy involves data strategy, and that is why it is highly important to take care of the data quality first. Otherwise you will have a lot of consequences in that area. That's my understanding. You want to put some thought into that?
Yeah, just a couple days ago, T. Scott Glendaniel, who's really a big voice in the data science space, posted this article that was saying, I think 80% of the times that AI projects are failing are because of poor data quality or bad data quality or low data quality, however you want to define it. But it is because of bad data quality. And that's staggering. And, my first question was, why do people start AI projects or any database projects when they have tackled bad data yet? But we can answer that a little bit later. And also to add to that, Sharad, I think in one of the articles on your blog too, you were writing that hey, IBM was estimating that bad data quality is costing the U.S. economy alone $3.1 trillion.
Exactly, that's a number which is the study is published, and I think I can imagine like why this number is so high. It's like you can solve almost every problem with data. Imagine that even the COVID problem, very early stage, if CDC would have put the hands on the data, they would have averted the whole crisis, right? They would have called the people who have the COVID, because of the privacy concern, they couldn't get hold of the data, and they didn't have technology to support it. But imagine that the whole crisis would have now this crisis worth the US already, much more than 10 or 15 trillion dollar, how much it is, right? So maybe the number might have changed now.
Maybe it's higher for sure. And I just want to also put that in perspective, because when you hear $3.1 trillion, sounds a lot. $1 trillion is definitely a lot of money, but I don't think we fully grasp the magnitude of that value. And again, to put in perspective, $1 million alone, that's a lot of money, right? You're already a millionaire, which is a good thing if you can achieve that from a monetary point of view in your life. Now, an average apartment in San Francisco, which is a fairly expensive city in the US, cost about $1 million. Now, that entire population of San Francisco, you can buy them all apartments, 1 million people or so living there. That gives you $1 trillion. And then 3.1 is 3.1 times that, right? So it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. You can buy 3 San Francisco, huh?
Exactly.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Exactly.
I think that's, if you put in the context, very nice to see that context.
So Sharad, earlier on, you were talking about data quality that I think we need to understand, we need to lay out there so we know what to measure. Because first we need to measure if we want to improve, right?
Yeah, I think before even we measure, we need a strategy. That the first thing is that let's define that what the data quality really means to us. And generally, I think Dharma have a very good framework that you can kind of use the dimensions to define, whether it's a completeness, whether it's a timeliness, So the first part is define what the data quality you are going to measure against, right? So that's the one part of that. Then after that, once you define those using the dimensions, then you have to measure it. And now that is my favorite part. How do you measure it? There are so many databases, so many issues, so many things. How do you measure it, right? So let's park this. Now, the idea for measurement of the data quality is not super simple, because there are so many applications. A typical organization have close to, like we have customers, they have 300 plus applications, right? So imagine the 300 applications. That means about 300 different application owners. There means about thousands of people are working on different projects. Getting them all coordinated about the issues about the data quality is not a simple task. So in my opinion, data quality cannot be addressed until unless you address a data literacy. First thing have to be the data literacy. Create a basically the all the data needs to be educated to everyone through the metadata layer. If the data layer is not possible, that educate
And
everybody.
Sharad, what does that mean for the audience? The metadata layer, is that
Okay.
a
So
data dictionary, data catalog?
data catalog. So the idea is that when you want to give, so the data literacy means that everybody is aware of what data we have, like getting the arm around the data. Now imagine there are 100 applications. Nobody knows each other application. We only know my application, right? So that way that nobody have awareness around the data. So the first part is creating a literacy means that you create a data catalog with where all the applications are cataloged into one, and then give access to everyone. So now you cannot give every data access to everyone. Provided if the data is public, then you can give access. If this is not a public, it's a private or confidential, you do not want to give access. So if you want to give only the metadata access, you don't have to classify the data, whether it's a private or public or confidential. But if you want to give data access, you want to have high level of data quality, data literacy, then you should also classify your data. So first objective is catalog, then classify the data, whether it's a confidential, PII, public, which is public means within the corporate. Then once you classify it, now you can give access to everyone, right? So using catalog, you can give access to all systems. Everybody knows what the data exists. They can search around, they can do something with that. Now this is a simple idea. Now once you figure out the data literacy, now even though now at this point of time people have C1 field which have company code, right? People have metadata do not tie with the data. So now you have to solve this challenge. Now how do you collect the tribal knowledge from individuals and kind of put the correct metadata possible, right? And also you can put this, now such a massive data, now we are talking about the millions of data objects. So you have to have you cannot put on everything, but at least the important data elements, which is like, say, as you classifying the data, you can also classify what is important and not important things are.
Right.
So once
The
you
80-20
classify it,
rule.
yeah, it's exactly 80-20 rules. So put the more focus on your 20% of the data and classify them. Once you classify and find that those are my important data assets, like especially customers, items, patients, if they're a healthcare company, and then whatever the data is very important for your organization, you classify them, give access to everyone, and then make sure that their metadata is matching. So collect that the whole thing is the business glossary. You put the business glossary, you assign them with the data elements, and you put together a nice, clean catalog to put the basically the provide them everybody access to it, and then give them, okay, this is how the data should be, and these are the ground rules of the quality ground rules are dimensions generally, like completeness, timeliness, right? So those are my dimensions that, okay, is the data is there. Once you give them access and everybody is involved in the data quality effort, now data literacy is given, and now we know this. Now after that, you ask everybody, you basically implement some programs. Like one of the customer we have, they say, okay, when you see something, say something, right? Like most of the time governance, you have to communicate very easily. So when they look around the data quality, they find in the reports, they find in somewhere in the problem in their whatever the working they are doing, they're working on a table, they're working on a file, they see, oh, this file is wrong, they look at the catalog, they go and they flag it, this data quality have this problem. They just need to go and find the issues, and you have to use everybody to get the issue. So
Right.
now you're collaborating with everyone and get all the issue and creating a catalog of all the data issues, right? So now you have all the issues, and when you are collecting the issue, probably ask users to also put the priority, what the priority of this issue is, and maybe the business impact value, that what is the business impact in terms of dollar amount, right?
Yeah.
So that will
So-
also give you the very, very fine principle of measurement, that how the data governance group can kind of prioritize and figure it out. That so that it's the strategy of after data literacy, putting all these issues together. Now you have a list of inventory of all the issues which exists in your ecosystem of that. And that is a much of the easier way of getting the list of the data quality issues. So let me focus on that and see if you have some questions around it and you want to put some more your thought into that area as well.
Yeah. So from what I'm hearing, Sharad, you're advocating for data democratization, and putting that data in the hands of its utilizers, its consumers, its creators as well, making it more open, and in a way having some way of crowdsourcing, if you will,
Exactly.
within the company, that hey, let's all we're all responsible for the quality of our data, and by seeing it, by having it accessible, and also understanding how we should read it, how we should utilize it, we can better understand where a data quality issue might occur. And I think it's great that it's straying away from the concept that a lot of the companies are adopting, and that is, we know the quality of the data is bad. Our management still needs those reports. Let's correct it as part of that ETL process, or like right before it hits the report. We're not going to correct it in the source necessarily, but we're going to make sure somehow through a lot of manual effort, for the most part, is that the reports will still be okay. And so management won't complain, which is really the waste of resources in the long term.
And believe me or not, like we work with a lot of customers, and a lot of customers still use this technique, but because that's necessary evil, right? Because you have to use it somehow to get the reports corrected, because your reports at the end does not match the report at the ERP system with the data warehouse. Then they have to match together, otherwise the whole effort is wasted. So that is also, I think, that in the overall process, the list of issues are very important, right? That is why it is important to have democratization. But I don't see that you will stop doing those ETL pipeline fixes anyway, because fixing the data at the source is the right thing to do. I was working with a customer yesterday, and she created something called I forgot, like act, prevent, and there was one more terminology. So I think the objective is that first you say, like, within the source you fix it, and then if you can't fix at the source, then fix at the ETL pipeline. Otherwise you mitigate it. So that's the
because you don't always have control
Yeah.
over the source, right?
Yeah. So that's because but that is why you need a data governance group, because they can influence the nature of the source level. The analytics team cannot work on this side of this, but the data governance group can go to the source level. Hey, why not when you are collecting the country code, why not you create a list of countries and ask them to collect from the country code rather than typing the country code, right? Because that's how the data quality issues are getting collected all the time. So that is why it is the important is to fix the issue at the source, but you have to also conduct root cause analysis. So there is a lot more to go. So I think if we took the strategy is very simple. You democratize the data, you put the literacy, right? So everybody have access. B, collect all the issues. Now you have all the issues and the list of all the issues, and it will take few months or hopefully a year. But I think few months is good idea to collect all the issues of the list, prioritize those. Priority is comparatively, like, believe me or not, I have seen in organization when, like, whoever have like louder mouth, their issues heard better than what works on the business impact. That is why the collecting the business impact number is very important, because somebody sometimes say, hey, I'm not able to get my project management report working, but they are only working about some Jira tickets, and this is also important, but their data quality issue important is only the productivity of the team. On the other side, there is one side where the financials are getting reported and the financials are not getting reported properly. If the financials get missed into your stock market report, your stock price will go down or go up, which is not right thing to do either way, because we are reporting incorrectly. So if you report incorrectly, you may go to jail ultimately, right? Because that's the fraudulent. It might come up, and we know that there are so many companies we went to jail because of, so many executives went to jail because they literally did the fraud. But this is something that you are unintentionally doing, but it's happening, right? So that's where you have to find that which issues are very important, and that's generally comes by the business impact. So when
Yeah.
people are telling the problem, collect the business impact number, and then once you have all this information, then you prioritize it. What
And
issue
Sharad, to interject, I completely agree with you. I think that business impact is really the highest contributor to the decision on how things should be prioritized. I also recommend maybe three others. One is the prevalence, how widespread that data quality issue is, if it's across the enterprise or if it's just serving one particular department. The other one is the resources that we need to be invested into to fix it. And the third one is maybe the complexity of creating it. So I think having some sort of a matrix with all these four dimensions will give you that score on identifying what should you tackle first.
Perfect.
And there's the legal aspect too, right?
And the legal aspect, yes, that
And the
goes
legal
trumps
aspect.
it all. Yeah,
trumps all. Yeah.
Can I just ask a quick question about literacy? So from my experience in organizations, there's a lot of bias when it comes to managers or department heads. So if the department head had a little bit of experience with data, then they will put some emphasis on data. If they had some experience with change management in their previous jobs, then they will put emphasis on that as well. But ultimately, that's not the way it should be, basically. So who should be in charge, or who is responsible for creating that data literacy in the organization?
It should be the data governance group. And I generally put the data governance group at three part of the in charge for this. One is the access management, which is like privacy control, all issues regarding access management. Second is the democratization, which is literacy. And the third is the quality improvement. So that all three combines creates a comprehensive data governance group. And that should be the part of them. If you do independently, then it's not a comprehensive data literacy. Then people have here and there, and they don't have a universal, the same view of the data. So I think it's a very good question, but I think that's my bias, is maybe my biased opinion, but that's, in my opinion, that is how it should be. The data governance group, let's give them the in charge of that create the literacy in the organization, and they can create it. The reason for that is that they have some sort of enforcement power. Like other than data governance group, nobody have the power to enforce something to it. Now there are some challenges in the change management part of it, because whenever the data governance implement any change, mostly people say, so this is one part, that if you see any government of it, authority or anything, governance authority, they generally ask you something. Oh, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you put the PII field? Can you flag this? This is other way around. You're giving them some information. So this is the one of the tool, like the data governance group is actually not asking anything from the business owners, but they're providing them the access to the data. They're giving them, and then after that they're asking them, oh, can you also put the metadata fields, description and definition whenever you find some information. So this is a give and take relationship, and this is something that you're giving it to the community rather than asking them. So the implementation is much more easier in this one, because not much change management is needed in this area, because you're giving the contributing back to your subscriber base, basically.
Yeah, I think Diana agrees. She's a change management expert here.
I'm doing my PhD in change management. Yeah,
No,
so
I
basically
think change management is the core heart of like data governance, I would say. The how to enforce everybody to do that, and you can put your thought. Is this make sense or
you tie anything to a goal and to a benefit, you have more chances of convincing that person. So creating that desire, giving them a reward at the end, and stuff like that. So absolutely. And I feel that we're not change management literate at all. So a lot of change initiators in general, right? Yeah. So I'm not talking about data governance professionals, or I'm talking in general, that whenever we make changes, we just tell people to do things, which adds to their workload, and we're not explaining very well why. We're not informing them, we're not giving them maybe the tools or the training that they need, and most importantly, we don't create that desire for them to actually do it. So why am I doing it? What's in it for me?
No,
And if we can do that.
that's absolutely, what's for me. The change management is all about that, and especially that is why it's sometimes it's the data literacy. That's why I do not use the word data democratization more. I use the word data literacy. The reason for that is that you're literating people, and people are getting to know something, so they are more, actually they
Empowered.
want to learn, because they need all the time data. People need the cross departmental data they need, but they are not getting that value. So that's why when they get the access to the cross departmental data, they all over it all the time. That's why the data catalog utilization is pretty high, because people are getting access to cross departmental data. That's why
Yeah.
it is important. Yeah.
And back to your point, that's why data governance is so important to make sure that they're putting all this data in context, and it has guidelines and rules, definitions, so you know what you're looking at, and you're not going to be at risk of misusing that data in any way or form. Also want to just take a second here and just say hello to our audience. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We have Maurice here. Thank you so much for joining us today, and Ayush, who is really looking forward to this event, especially from the last times that he's seen you, and Ravit, always a
Ravit
fan
is
and
everywhere.
loving the Ravit show, by the way, as you know. And we have people all over the world, from Andrew from London. Hi Andrew. And we have Jorge from Colombia, and Ken from Hong Kong. So it's really all over the place. Charlotte, we even have a Scot in London as well, Susan Walsh, and of course the amazing Scott Taylor. Toronto, and Mohammed from Morocco. And we can keep on going, and then afterwards, I think we can also go into some of the questions, but we still haven't covered everything that we wanted to talk about. And like Danielle was mentioning, the challenge with tribal data knowledge is definitely key. And hi, Lawrence from France. Thanks for joining us. And I think this is Giovanna from Milan. Thank you so much for joining us all. All right, so.
Yeah, besides data literacy, is there what are the other reasons for poor data quality?
So data literacy is I would say, not the reason for the poor data quality. The data literacy is a mechanism to get to the data quality kind of issue list of it. But the reason for the bad data quality is that we are not collecting the data properly at the source systems, right? That's the problem, because like for example, if I type my address, I may type incorrect address. So do we have a mechanism to correct it? Do we have a Google validation which proves it, and then make sure that the address is correct all the time? But if I'm giving my information wrong, and even though if I put the information, everything is correct, I change my house, I move to new office now, so the data what was there is now bad.
Correct.
It was good quality and suddenly becomes a bad quality. That's timeliness. So you need a continuous update of the data, and those are just the master data we are talking about, just the people around it. But there are a lot of data we collect within the organization, like failure code, like the access code, the patient IDs. There are so many datas are there everywhere. So these are the reason that data quality goes bad. And when sometimes it's timeliness is one of the reasons, but sometimes, most of the time, the data quality issues are found is because of either the bad programming at the source system, or we are not collecting the information which we should. Those are the reason. And some reasons are when you have the merger and acquisitions, and when the standards are not there. The one company is using one standard, another company is using another standard of collecting the data. Like for example, country code. Like somebody is taking US as a country, another is saying USA as a country code. So their codes are same, but it does not match.
Yeah.
Right. Their values are the same, but how do you match together? Like failure code. Like we see that like everywhere, these are the very standard mechanism of collecting the data, but different practices, different places, different applications use different practices. So those are the reasons of having the bad data, at the one place. And then, how do you fix it? That's something that, again, as I say, that as a part of the strategy, the plan which I put together is that you collect the data, then you identify it, you have the business value, you prioritize it. Now you have to analyze it and basically find the root cause. Because what happens until unless the data governance group is not going to find the root cause, mostly people are going to complain about the reporting system. Where they see the data, they were going to say, hey, there is a problem, and then every time goes to the ETL people, and then they're like, oh, they will fix the ETL pipeline and there's the problem fixed. That's not where it is. The problem is actually the source system. So that is why it is important for data governance group to do the ETL and to do the root cause analysis, to find that where the source systems are. And that is why the lineage is very important of the data, where the data come from, where it goes. And the catalog have lineage information is highly important to kind of understand that area.
Because I would have to say another reason why that lineage is very important is, even though you might correct it in the source system, data may go bad along the way at one point.
Yes, exactly. So the both things says that. So as per the strategy which I put together is, you find out the root cause, that where the system is. Then you say, okay, now we know the problem. That problem is in the source system. Now the first thing is that now you know the problem, you find out the root cause analysis. Now you improve it. Now improvement is a complex task itself. If you have to either use the source system, there are again multiple ways of fixing it. Either you manually correct some some address is wrong, you just fix it. Some carriage returns are there, you fix it, right? So there's sometimes the manual changes are possible. Sometimes you have to change within the source system. You have to change the procedures, how you are collecting the data, or the methods you are collecting the data within the source system. Sometimes it is complex. Like, for example, you are using failure codes, and different organization uses different kind of failure codes, or the patient codes, or the country codes. Then you have to manage them, and changing that is a complex task, right? This country code versus this country code versus that country code, asking them to use a one standard methodology is a complex task. And then the master data is always goes bad because people put bad information. That's even you don't have much control on it. Now there are a lot of tools are available, which is companies provide to kind of fix the master data. Those are also various techniques source system can use to collect the right addresses, right country code, kind of validate those master data. So that's the MDM is by itself is a data quality challenge which needs to be addressed, probably in a call with Scott Taylor, because he's a guru of MDM, right? And then this is one of the area, and then obviously and then maybe ETL pipeline fixes. That is still a very relevant fix, right? So you find the problem, you fix it, and after the fixing, you also need to control it. Otherwise, it will happen again. And for that, you need data quality rules to kind of control it. But I have seen people write data quality rule at the beginning of it to identify the issue. That is probably too much, in my opinion, because then you are creating so much burden on the data governance group to write all the data quality rules at the beginning of the system. But to control it, you should write data quality rules so that it will not happen again in future. So those are the strategy which is very easily implementable. Does not require a lot of resources from the data governance group, can be implemented, and can improve the data quality within a year. You will see a drastic improvement, and then you can measure it, that how much you correct it, because you have a business impact. Then you can see that what was the impact outcome of it. And let's say you have two people working on this project, data governance group, and you can figure out the two people, you spend this much money, let's say $500,000 was invested in the whole thing. Then what is the outcome of it? But let's say outcome maybe $10 million, maybe 20, maybe 100. I don't know. Basically, that depends upon the business impact. How bad was the data? What was the business impact? You save one bad reporting to the I would say the stock market. You can solve all the problems. $500,000 is not a big investment in improving that much data quality, and that depends upon organization to organization how much investment they want to do it. Like for a large company, $500,000 is nothing, but that is generally the kind of investment you need to make in order to improve the data quality. You need one or two people dedicated to kind of work on that effort, some tools to kind of make sure that they are aligned, and then only it can be improved. But that's a very practical advice I have it with the tools and techniques and everything put together, kind of improving the quality of the data with the proper budget and information.
Well said, Sharad. Definitely have a few things to add here, but I want to take this one question from Jorge that was asking how would you address irreconcilable the data definitions between owners that share ownership? How do you avoid this data other users? So let's maybe start with the first part of the question. Whenever there's a clash between those definitions and even what the rules need to be in place, how can we tackle that?
Yeah, that's a data governance committee. You set it up, right? When that is the one reason I think that always talk about the data governance committee, and that's the executive committee. Mostly people have at the executive level and represented quite a bit. And those kind of issues need to be addressed in bi-weekly meeting or monthly meeting in the data governance committee. That hey, this is coming up. There are clashes. Let's address this. But the what you need to do it, like rather than just putting and then hey address it, you should not do that. As a data governance manager or data chief data officer or whatever the title is, what you need to do is you need to get this differences, also some root cause of it, the why the differences are there. Because I have seen that in practical examples is that there are two definitions. One of the hospital chain, they have length of stay, right? So the definitions was confusing. At the one place, the one particular customer, like there are two different hospitals got merged together, and their definitions was not matching, right? So the one was a smaller hospital, one was the bigger hospital. And the bigger hospital say, "Oh, my things are much more complex," but they had almost the one definition. The bigger hospital one, the smaller hospital was very well organized in their system, and the bigger hospital already using three different definitions of the length of stay. So it makes sense to use the bigger hospital to adopt the smaller hospital's definitions, because at that time, and the changes was very less at the big hospital, but they have more clout, right? Because they have more money and everything. So that is why it is these things need to go to the executive council to kind of address those concerns. And that's, I think that once you have the root cause, then executive council can easily make the decision. If you don't have the root cause, they will still fight. Like the way the lower executives are fighting, the same fighting will keep going into the executive council as well. But if you have the root cause, and you're going with the data, again, you are data people, so you should go with the data. Then those issues are addressed in the executive council, because they can see, okay, and probably go with the budget as well. How much it will take for fixing it. So if you go with the budget and something, and then the issues are addressed very easily at the executive council meeting.
Absolutely. That's a great outline of sort of the chain of command. Anything that's not maybe solved at that, let's say that stewardship level, data stewardship level, or data ownership level, really moved up for a resolution at the data governance level. And that's sort of the ultimatum. Hey, if your kids aren't playing well, parents will come in and solve the issues.
Do you have some more questions?
Yeah, go on.
No, I mean, do you want to put other questions up? Oh, okay. I see a lot of positive comments here with an interesting topic.
Yeah, Auntie, thank you so much for joining us. And yes, Sarah is concluding this, that if we don't fix data at its source, garbage in, garbage out, as well, no data is bad. It totally really depends on how refined the processing services are. Yeah, and the session is damn good. Well, thank you for joining. Glad you were finding value out of it.
Okay, so what tools do we use?
OvalEdge. So OvalEdge is the tool which basically can be used for.
Tell us a little bit more about OvalEdge. Oh, I saw in your newsletter that you are.
I think we are missing some disturbance.
Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay, now it's good. Yeah, I think we got some disturbance in between.
I think so. Yeah, there was an interruption.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was saying about OvalEdge. I saw in your newsletter that you are now at the 5th update or fifth version. So it's getting improved constantly.
Yeah, so
Congratulations
the
for
fifth
that.
version, so this version is very important for us because it's a very new UI, and we have put a lot of focus on UI and UX improvement. So this one
Mhm.
is I think again earlier we used to be user friendly, but now we are super user friendly. It's built for business, so the business can easily digest this information and kind of plan it. So that's the fifth version is live, and it's it's we are very excited about this release. It's helping a lot of customers, and it's basically simplifying the adoption of the product and with the data governance in general. So that's we are really happy about to announce that. Yeah.
And Sharad, what part of the data quality improvement life cycle would OvalEdge step into?
So we support the entire life cycle except fixing it, which is one of the major part. But we do define, like you can define the dimensions of the data quality. You can measure it. You can kind of collect all the data from multiple places, do the data literacy program, which I just mentioned. Then after that, you can analyze it. We can do root cause analysis because we have lineage into it. So you can do all this part. But then you have to improve it. The improvement will happen only by taking some action into it.
Right.
Then after improvement, then you can do control. And control, we came up with the data quality rules as well. So now you can do the control as well. So now you can write the rules that if something goes bad, that will again create a ticket, and then whole process around the approval process and everything will again happen. So
So
we
the
can do,
business owner is configuring those roles as they see fit.
yes, the data governance group or business owners or anybody can configure those rules to kind of find the data quality problem again. But we have seen, like, people are using data quality rules at the beginning of the identify the issue as well, because again, mostly people are sometimes use in the ETL pipeline, so they want to check the data quality before, like, suppose they are buying the data from a customer, they're not their internal source data. So they're making sure that they're writing the basic rules to make sure that the source data is not going bad within the pipeline, and then so that after that, so you can write rules here as well as there. But or then it's a combination of both things. So we have the tools which combine everything. The only thing we do not support is how do you improve it, because improvement need to happen within the ETL pipeline, within the ETL tools. We are not a ETL tools, we are just a data governance tools on top of it.
Perfect. And one BD is mentioning here that reference data management in the context of data quality management is an important consideration. So how does OvalEdge help with that reference data?
So that's 5.2 version will have the complete reference data management as well.
Oh,
Right
wow.
now, we do support like quite a bit reference data management, but not to the level where everything can be audited for all the reference data, especially in the data warehousing world. But 5.2 version we will come up probably in May timeframe of this year. At that time we will have the complete support of reference data management as well, so that people not only can, like, generally reference data management requires, like, okay, there's a list of reference data and who corrected it, when they corrected it, how to add the values, all the auditing in place. So that we will be out in 5.2 version. So in the 5.2 version will be like a complete, we're already end-to-end data governance suite, but there is only the reference data piece which is missing, and that's we are solving that in 5.2 version.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Amit here is
We're
asking
thinking-
how to overcome the resistance of application owners in adopting data governance processes. Many times data governance processes look like overhead by IT application owners. And I do recommend to watch the last session that we've had with Sharad, as he's really walking us through how to build that business case that really business owners are unable to say no to. So they're really willing to then adopt data governance.
Yeah, and the problem, I generally feel that, again, the data governance is always asking something, not giving something. So they need to provide a mechanism, just like I consider between like Syria versus Denmark, right?
Mm-hmm.
No harm against Syria, but people can feel that they're moving away from Syria, and every opportunity they will move to Denmark, right? Because the government at that side is only asking its security provider mostly, right? While the Denmark, they also have schools, they also have the healthcare systems, and everything is provided by the government. So people are really happy with their government. That's why their living index is high and everything. So the governments, if any governance, the governance group is only asking something, hey, you do this, it's not going to work. You need to provide something to them as well. So that is why the business owners are very happy, because now as a application developer or application owner, the why you like, even your job exists because you want to integrate with other applications. You want to do more with that application. You want to enhance that application functionality. The major block they have is that they are not able to communicate well with other application owners. And when the data governance provide the data literacy, and other applications owners the data to them, it creates them, oh, I'm getting other applications data as well. So I'm giving my data, but I'm getting all other applications, hundreds of applications data to me. That is why they want to contribute. So it's a give and take relationship. Without tool, if you implement data governance solution that put everything, your information in a spreadsheet, and you just give it to me, I will and forget about it, that is why it doesn't go very well. That's why you need tools to kind of implement it and then kind of adopt the data. That's why the data literacy is number one part you want to implement in data governance journey, because that improves the adoption of the program. That basically build the trust of the data. These people are for me. They are not like taking anything from us. It's a very good question.
Sharad, how do you feel about the companies that are restricting data access to their employees in order to lower the risk of maybe releasing the data, misusing that data? It's the fact, I forgot what the term is called, but you're basically only getting access what your role should allow you to have access to. If you're not working with X department, then no, you shouldn't get access to that data, even though I think it's of high value because you don't know what you don't know. And by opening and having a data catalog where you can access all these other ones, you really uncover so many nuggets.
That is why the data classification is very important, George. Until unless you classify the data, that is a confidential versus restricted versus versus public versus PII. Of course, you can't give confidential data access. Like suppose you give salary information to everybody, the whole company will collapse on next day, right? So imagine that, right? The HR data is gone to everyone, and like, okay, how much he's making this much money, I'm not, right? So obviously you need to protect it. So there is a safeguard, it needs to be there, but the lot of things need to be public as well. So that's why the classification is the most important. Before you even can give access to everyone, you have to classify it. So I generally say that, okay, first you give metadata access because there's no harm in that. Then you classify the data internally, where the application owner classify their data, and then make the data which you feel like this is public and keep everything confidential, that okay with yourself. And then make sure that other people are from the metadata, they say, hey, what is this data? And then they can say, oh, this is not confidential, I will not give it to you, because they can see still from the metadata. And then say, oh, no, this is not confidential, let me make this as public and give it the access to you. So that's why it's a continuous process. The classification is also continuous process where the application owners can give access data to everyone.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Shirley here had a comment that data quality must be built in and planned for when building, configuring, customizing the source systems. Quality through inspection has always proven to be more expensive than planning up front. And I don't disagree with you, Shirley, but I think also the reality is when it comes to that business case,
planning,
for most organizations, they're investing in that system first, right? They're getting it up, they're investing in that ERP, CRM, and afterwards they're dealing with the consequences.
I totally agree. Means I agree that I wish all the cities were well planned. I go to India and the cities were not well planned, and now you have to live with that, right? You have to correct it. You have to take the corrective actions. Does not mean that you should not take corrective. But I totally agree that planning upfront, designing the application for the quality is most important. Now I think a lot of I saw some companies even taking the privacy first approach to kind of put the privacy of the people. Like I think Apple took it as well. Like they plan for the privacy when they're building the new applications. But there are so many applications which is built already, right? You have to figure it out the other part of it. So the same thing is I think the privacy first, then the quality first. So quality second. I mean, there may be an area where you can kind of focus upon that. But for the new application, the old applications are there, they are still there and serving a lot of work. And then how do we change that? That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Theresa here, she's saying that she's trying to create a dashboard for each application areas that has data quality issues. This might hold the team accountable to raise their standards as well. In OvalEdge, do you have those available reports and on the metrics, the dimensions, and how they're scoring for different data sources?
Yes, you can write all these matrices and something then, because as you are reporting, you can also report again the dimensions, and then you can report against them. So we provide those report out of the box.
Right. And I think we've answered this already. What are the tools that you suggest for best data quality in a new implementation?
OvalEdge. Yeah, that's the easy answer.
I think we can bring up the blog that Sharad put together. I think it's full of amazing insights.
Yes, and we're going to post the link in the comments as well. But Sharad has written this great piece on ovaledge.com. Just go to the blog section. But as I mentioned, we're going to also post a link where you can see not just why data quality decisions will make or break your innovative efforts, but also what are those steps, and some of which that we've covered in today's session. So there's a lot of great content, and not just with this blog post, but there's so many other great resources on this website that I encourage you to go and check them out. And of course, you can also always have a free demo with OvalEdge.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else that you want to add here, Sharad?
No, thank you. That's it. I think this blog is having the information. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. We will be happy to answer all the questions. If you have anything around data quality, even the strategy aspect of it, that if you are looking for any guidance in the strategy, that how do you implement it? It's, as I said, that it's not a huge investment to implement, and the most of the investment you have to make is you need one dedicated person probably to implement the data quality, dedicated or at least have one person to kind of manage the whole effort, the change management aspect of it, to manage the data governance part, where the data literacy and data quality, and then obviously data access management with the PII control, etc. That one person dedicated with a kind of a mid-sized to large organization kind of handle that much work to improve the overall quality of the data. And then it pays for itself, all the effort, because you're collecting the data quality issue, you're collecting the numbers. In a year, you will see that how much money you saved already, and how much benefit you have gotten for the business. Not only that, but you are also ahead of this. So I think one of the thing I want to say to all the business leaders and executives, before you even start in ML, AI, any initiative, is start investing in data governance. Otherwise, garbage in, garbage out, your billions of dollars will go wasted unless you have a solid data governance foundation in place. And that comes only when you have a dedicated group to kind of take care of these three aspects of it: the data access management, data quality aspect, and data literacy. Those three things creates a complete data governance. And without each other, they kind of live not so happily.
I agree.
We can quote you on that.
As Daniel was mentioning, such a complex way to tackle, because people are naturally resistant to change, especially when it comes to data governance. So that's definitely another side of the challenge, but it's something very important. Data literacy is very important, as Saravia was mentioning here as well.
I'll just comment that being resistant to change is not something bad. It's something that actually makes the change initiators be more aware and analyze things a little bit better before they actually do something. So yes, okay, resistance is there, but it's something good and can be utilized towards something positive. So, okay, why are people resistant? There must be a reason there. People are not just resistant just for the sake of being resistant.
I think such a good quote, Diana, such a good quote. One thing, I was listening to NPR, and they said that, that why this constitution, like change management, changing to the laws is so complex process. then some I don't know the person, but he said that it's supposed to be that way. So you go through the rigorous processes and kind of fine tune that, and then once the change happen, then a lot of adoption of that change is there. So it is good that the changes people are adopt to it, and that's where you are fine tuned, and then you're creating the best processes. And then when the best processes are there, and then people are changing, then the change is for better outcome.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on today, and thank you so much, Shilpi, for posting the link already. So definitely make sure you click on it and read the article, because it's full of wisdom and great practical information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sharad. As always, very, very insightful. Thank you for sharing so many things with us and enlightening us in yet another topic. Thank you very much, everyone, for your questions and for being here and for your support, as always.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Enjoy. Thank you.